of April 2024. Good afternoon to you wherever you are, and welcome to Diplomatic Affairs TV show here on Pan-African Television. My name is Ivan Bans Aban. As usual, I'm sitting in for the regular host, but I'm gonna introduce her to you. The regular host is here with me. We're going to be dealing with a topic or topics that we've tabled for today's conversation, and trust me, today's conversation is going to be as much as educative as you would want it. We're live on Facebook and on YouTube at Pan-African Television. We're live across 46 African countries and other parts of Europe. My name, once again, is Ivan Bans Aban. Let me quickly take you through the stories, all the topics we've tabled for our conversation today. Well, today we'll be dealing with Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana Cocoa Initiative headquarters inaugural. We'll be dealing with this matter extensively. We'll also talk about the Ghana holds bilateral discussions with Vietnam. We'll explore that as well. A book on evolving ECOWAS normative architecture and contemporary international law launched. Teachers and students receive cardiopulmonary resuscitation education. We'll also touch on median edition of all regional games launched, and of course we'll talk about the median diplomatic honors event as well. So this and many other topics are we going to be discussing. Let's go for this quick commercial break. We'll return with the topics in details. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. This is Diplomatic Affairs TV show here on Pan-African Television. My name, once again, is Ivan Bans Aban. So we will start our conversation with Ghana Cote d'Ivoire established CIGCI Secretariat to boost joint cocoa sector growth initiative. Now, this is one of the topics that, for me, I hold in high esteem, considering some of the challenges farmers will have to go through with regards to cocoa, the cocoa industry here in Ghana, and this very situation that finds itself in Ghana is not somewhat similar, or it's not anything different from what persons or the farmers in Cote d'Ivoire also go through. It is quite important to also note that there has been an initiative set out in Ghana, of course, the office here in Ghana, where conversation like this will be espoused and solutions would come out of it. Now I'll bring Harriet Nate into this very conversation. Harriet, you were there when the president gave his inaugural speech as to this very initiative. I know for a fact that the Prime Minister for Cote d'Ivoire was there as well to represent the president. I also know for a fact that the Minister for Food and Agriculture, Brian Champon, was also there, and in fact he happens to be the chairman for the steering committee for this very initiative. Share with us what was your initial thought when this whole project was launched?
Ivan, thank you very much, and thank you very much to our viewers. I still continue to be the guest, the guest for diplomatic affairs. Of course, the coming days will see me sitting here as a guest on the show.
I'm happy to take over your seats. Actually,
listen, own it, Ivan, own it. We are fine, own it. But I'm happy because I get to go on the field, reports on some of these assignments, and then when we are in the studio, we get to share some of the things that we witnessed on the ground. So this is like the right before our eyes, things are unfolding, and it is interesting to know that it's this inures to the benefits of the people of Africa. I don't even want to say Ghana because this goes beyond Ghana. I remember last week when we sat here, I kept talking about African diplomacy. I kept talking about the sub-region, West Africa, and then African diplomacy. This is exactly what we've been talking about. And for me, that day, this was like 3 days ago, it is like you rightly mentioned, the commissioning of a setup that would facilitate the many areas of cooperation when it comes to the two countries' cocoa sectors. So we are looking at bringing together our resources, and that's the message we've been trying to send when it comes to coming together and doing things together at the end of the day. But also, let me just give a brief background for our viewers to appreciate this conversation better. Since 1973, the International Cocoa Organization, which is ICCO, as you rightly mentioned, has been in charge of governing sustainable cocoa trade. The Abidjan Declaration, which birthed this that we witnessed a few days ago, which is the bringing together of resources, the agreement between Abidjan and Accra, or Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, was to ensure that these two countries, I understand, produce about 60% of the world's cocoa. Therefore, it is in order that they also have some voice at the table in making decisions when it comes to producing the cocoa bean, marketing, and research and what have you when it comes to this particular area. It is why I am very excited. If we begin to make moves like that, imagine what would happen to us as a region and then even as a continent. The fact that you realize that these two presidents met and realized that I think this is not a fair trade when it comes to what is happening in this particular area. Therefore, how do we actually provide a solution or proffer a solution to this problem? Hence the declaration of the this particular agreement, the Abidjan Declaration, which happened. The two of them met. Conversations started way back in 2017, 2018. They had met, signed the agreement, and then fast forward, we are witnessing the commissioning of an office setup here in Accra. So Accra again is hosting this office setup. The interesting thing again for me was on the day of the event when I saw these farmers, cocoa farmers. This is how practical we can get. These cocoa farmers in there on the field, going to the farm. They are the ones who are doing all the work, and yet the agreements and then things are not really in their favor in terms of remuneration and all of that. So it was very nice to see them, as part of the people that were gathered on the day of the commissioning of this setup. It means that it is for them. It is why they are the reason for which these two presidents, Alhassan Ouattara and President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, decided to, make this move for the people. And so I'm happy because we already have a global setup that is in charge of, cocoa and all of that. But 60% produced by Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, when it comes to cocoa, obviously, largely in the whole world, they ought to have a voice. And the only the only way you can have a voice is to take it sometimes by force. When you identify the problems, you must make a move. And when it requires that we bring our efforts together, we coordinate, our resources, we partner in every way possible to make the right decision for the people. This is what I want to see. So I saw the people, the farmers from Cote d'Ivoire and here in Ghana. You talked about the stakeholders, the Ministry of Agriculture headed by Brian Champon now, and of course the Prime Minister representing the President Alhassan Ouattara of Cote d'Ivoire here with a huge entourage or delegation here in the country with the President himself, and carrying out an initiative of this type or this kind was very, very, it was very good to witness something like that.
Briefly, for me, it's quite nice to see the palm and pageantry bit of it. It's also beautiful to see we initiating such policy and all that. But for me, it's about the real work, and I've seen corporations like this happen over and over and over, and the real work it's not done. It's left behind. It's not done. Right. I mean, for me, I'm looking at the traceability of this conversation. I'm looking at the market outlook. I'm also looking about the research, the regulations, and all that. Yeah. Are we sure that this is going to solve that very important problem that there exists between these two countries? Most importantly, farmers.
Well, when it comes to our common good, we ought to put aside our differences and pursue our common interest. And I think this is a display of, exactly what it should be at the end of the day. Don't forget that there are other countries who are equally producing a certain amount of cocoa. I think Brazil is in the picture, a couple of others that I'll find and then also bring them up in our conversation. Even Nigeria, here in West Africa is also part of it. I understand the conversation is moving beyond Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, and then getting even Nigeria and other African countries on board so they can have a bigger voice at the table to make decisions in the interest of the people in the continent, as I always put it. So like I said, this is where we put aside our differences and pursue a common agenda. Therefore, this is encouraging. It is worth talking about. You remember last week when we met, I said that people will not appreciate what we do for each other if we don't drum it, if we don't talk about it, if we don't drive it. And as a journalist, this is one of the things I sit here gladly and I talk about what other countries are doing with us, what we are doing with our development, partners. And I want to sit here and also drum the message of some of these gestures, efforts that are being made when it comes to getting to the top. We start small and we get to the top. I want to believe that the challenges that we face here within the sub-region or the continent is nothing compared to the bigger challenges they are faced with when it comes to the cocoa sector. Are you getting my point? Because there are other countries. So if you are sitting there, you are giving them quite huge volumes of cocoa and you are not getting much. Exactly. And you realize that, let's just consolidate our efforts, bring our resources together and, have a voice at the table. That alone is enough for us to forget about our differences and work through the common good or the common good of our people. So I think this is a step in the right direction.
Right, thank you very much. Now let's talk about the Vietnam-Ghana relations. There's a very interesting subject, Harriet, isn't it?
Ivan.
Yeah, especially because dating back, you would come to understand that Ghana and Vietnam had a very interesting and a very sweet, if I should put it, relations, especially when Kwame Nkrumah was the president at the time. But unfortunately, there was this time Kwame Nkrumah said he was going to, as it were, broker peace between Vietnam and I think at the time the United States of America. It was through that he was overthrown, and after that, the relationship that existed between Vietnam and Ghana was stalled. But it's also refreshing and also gladdens my heart to know that this very relationship has been rekindled. And over the week, we saw the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister also had conversations with, I think, his counterpart from Vietnam to broker this, this very beautiful relationship. Harriet, you were there. Tell us, were you happy about this very development?
I am always excited about anything that's, that's looks at other avenues in pushing the aspirations of our country forward. you know. So I'm excited about it. And don't forget that Vietnam is pushing for, you know, reviving relations between, you know, them and our country. People usually think when you sit outside and you don't know, you don't have information, you always assume. So people usually think that it is Ghana that is always out there looking for, you know, partnerships and partner. It's this way. You know, it's a two-way street, as we put it. So there are countries that are also seeking partnerships with our country, you know, and they want to work with our country. I'm sure from where they sit. Do you remember, I don't know if you recall, some time back, Vietnamese rice was very common on the market.
Very true.
Very common.
Very true.
And this was before other products or brands started coming in. And now it appears they faded out. I have no idea, but this is the only one that I recall very well because, you know, it was very laudable. Like, people knew about it. People were, they would, if you ask anybody what brand when it comes to rice do you consume, trust me, I'm sure this would go to, you know, it will be coming from Vietnam.
Yeah. Before you even continue, I think we'll have a bite on this very subject matter.
Right.
Let's quickly take a look at this. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Ghana established diplomatic relations with Vietnam on the 28th of March, 1965, becoming the 10th African country and the 26th in the world to do so. As a result, Vietnam opened its embassy in Accra on 5th November 1965 and closed it in June 1966 after the coup d'etat which ousted President Nkrumah from power. For many Ghanaians of the older generation, although Ghana and Vietnam have no resident missions in each other's country, relations between the two countries over the years have been cordial and fruitful. Your visit therefore symbolizes the beginning of a new chapter in our friendship and a testament to our collective commitment towards strengthening our ties and exploring new avenues for cooperation that promise mutual benefits. This collaboration, which is built on the solid foundations of understanding, respect, and shared goals, is destined to reach new heights, setting an exemplary standard for partnership and diplomacy.
I totally agree with what Excellency just mentioned about our bilateral relations. We have a long history of friendship and comprehensive cooperations. Was one of the countries to establish the diplomatic relations with Vietnam very early, even before our national independence. So next year we'll commemorate the 60th anniversary of our bilateral relations, which serve as a milestone in our history of diplomatic relations. And I totally agree with what your Excellency just said. It is very time to bring our relations to a new height, to meet the demands and to be benefits of our two countries, our two peoples, and also for the benefits of our two regions.
Right, so there you have it. That was the Minister, or the Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs here in Ghana, and of course his counterparts as well from Vietnam. The Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister is so optimistic that this very partnership would reach new heights and of course set standards for diplomatic relations as well. I just hope so. I just hope this would be the light of the day. Harriet, let me bring you in.
You know, as we started talking before we took a bite from the Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs of the ministry, telling us more about this engagement between us, Honorable Amprechum Kweku Sapong, and of course the Deputy Minister from Vietnam, also, you know, sharing why they decided to make this move. I think it is very crucial in these times when you look at the various tensions or the geopolitical tensions happening everywhere. People are looking for new avenues to build relationships and also revive relationships that have not really been worked on in a while, to see or relook at the potentials or the prospects from this relationship. So like I said earlier on, I think this is a step in the right direction again for Ghana. Usually what I want to know would be the details of the meeting, or what really happened, the conversations, the focus of this meeting, what are they looking at. And a few things came up in this meeting. More high-level visits, of course, between Accra and Vietnam. It means that we would need government or state officials to be visiting, because the more they visit, that's when they begin to talk about a few things that they might have spotted in working on together. So that's good for us.
We're looking at some free visits and all that.
The visas, of course, I want to believe that, to even start with the visas, both countries do not have embassies in their home countries. So Vietnam doesn't have an embassy here in Accra. Ghana doesn't have an embassy in Hanoi. So that's the capital of Vietnam. So it is essential that they begin, and this is where this has to happen before everything else. If not even, yes. So I want to believe that. Also, I took away a few things, and I want to share that with you. Proposal for the appointment of an honorary consul of Ghana in Vietnam. Okay. In Vietnam. Yes, exactly. So to start with, you need to have an office in the host country. So you can start some of the things that you want to do together. Without an office set up, or without any, proper representation, you cannot start from anywhere. So that's also part of the conversation. And then discussions around the exchange of professionals in healthcare and education sector. So I think this is also part of it, and it's very important. I think trade, yes, commerce also came up. So they are looking at, you remember I mentioned the collaboration in rice production. Right. You remember I mentioned Vietnamese rice, in my passing comments. So collaboration in rice production and harvesting value chain, cooperation in digital economy, cyber security, and cooperation in tourism in each other's home country. And I'm looking at the exchanges, and all these, at the end of the day, you would find means of exploring the opportunities together. When it comes to rice, I know we've been very intentional, or conversations have been very intense when it comes to made in Ghana rice. Which means that we buy or we, import more rice than we export, to the world. And we have rice farmers here, who are doing so much. So we think that once they start, this would go a long way. If they have to exchange expertise in this area, I believe it is the way to go, and it is going to be good for both countries. But we usually with something like this, one would like to look at the strength, economic strength of the country. Vietnam is, maybe I'm not sure if I can say that it is not one of the countries that is most visited by Ghanaians. I'm not too sure. I stand to be corrected, because things, but it's not the usual countries that we know that people travel to. You will not find Vietnam in there. So I want to believe that reviving the relationship between us, would also begin to open Vietnam up for Ghanaians to want to explore opportunities in Vietnam, and also would also open the doors for Vietnamese to also begin to explore and know what is happening here in Ghana. So for me, I think it's good. We are looking at all these areas, and I think it's very strategic at the end of the day. It's very new. It is too early for us to anticipate anything, but based on what we've gathered, as journalists in the newsroom, in the conference room, for this conversation, I want to believe that there's so much that we are going to do together, should we move as, the two countries are determined to at the end of the day.
Right, thank you. So, of course, like you said, like you heard Harriet clearly intimate, one of the first things we're looking out for as far as this conversation or this relationship between Ghana and Vietnam would be setting up, various embassies here in Ghana and even in Vietnam as well, and of course have representatives head these embassies. So this is one of the first things that we're going to be looking at. Let's quickly also jump to our next topic for conversation. We are going to be talking about the book launch on the evolving ECOWAS normative architecture and contemporary international law. Now, this book explores the intervention of the economic West African economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, in the December 2016 post-electoral dispute in the Gambia. So this is what the book largely talks about. Let's take a bite from this very book launch. When we're back, we'll explore this conversation extensively. Stay with us.
It firstly highlights the legal response of ECOWAS and the African Union to conflict situations on the African continent, which appear to be hindering the continent's development. It provides an overview of the institutional transformation of ECOWAS as an economic organization into one for the promotion of rule-based system anchored on the entrenchment of democratic norms and rule of law towards regional stability for effective regional integration for the benefit of the community citizens. The book also offers a synopsis of general intervention and institutional development of ECOWAS, seen as one of the most dynamic regional economic communities in Africa and an effective component of the African peace and security architecture, linking all regional economic communities of the continent. With the comprehensive review, I recommend this book to policymakers, academia, the diplomatic community, staff of this ministry, students engaged in contemporary issues in public law in our sub-region.
The highlight is that ECOWAS has evolved from a purely economic integration organization to one to fostering a rule-based system anchored on democracy and good governance and the rule of law. And as you may see, the revised Treaty of ECOWAS in 1993 provide the framework for this evolution, in the sense that our sub-region need to be properly governed, and it provides a clearer framework for a comprehensive peace and security architecture for our country towards the realization of the common vision of the founding fathers of ECOWAS.
Right, so there you have it. The book was duly launched. This is a book that talks about the evolving ECOWAS normative architecture and contemporary international law. I think I have come across a book titled Elections Adjudication in Ghana. I have read it. I mean, somewhat similar to this very book. I mean, but obviously deals with the, the legal jurisprudence, in our elections here in Ghana for a particular period of time. But obviously this is talking about the 2016 December, post-electoral dispute of the Gambia. Harriet, touch on this very story for us.
Ivan, so first and foremost, I think it is great to have some of these moments documented. Right. Events or, most things have happened in the past, right, when you and I were not there. We were not even born. So we may not have or be privy to details when it comes to some of the things, that, might have happened in the past. So when we have events documented, in a book form or put in a book where people can easily purchase the book or know where, walk into a library, collect a book and, read and get information, I think it's very good for us, as a region and also as a continent. When this was the first time I was actually learning about details of a move like this one, a book written to give you extensive information on the works of the ECOWAS and even at the continental level, which is the African Union. Like he rightly stated, ECOWAS has moved from pursuing strictly economic, activities or promoting economic activities from within the region or in the region to peace and security, and putting in place measures to ensure that they are championing peace and security. No country can develop without peace and security in the end. And so this is very important for such a book to be launched, and I want to believe that it will be made public for everyone who is interested in learning, or even positioned in our schools for students to have access to some of the information in the book, outlined in the book. It would help when it comes to understanding, the dynamics of the regional base pact and how it all plays out in the end, in the end. So I think that this is very good. It was an eye-opener for me as well, because I learned so much on the day, and I think that this is a good framework for peace and security, and talking about what happened in Gambia and post-elections and all of that. This is also crucial or critical for us as a country, especially as we get closer to our elections. So I want to believe there are so many lessons to be taken or drawn from the book.
I was going to ask you a follow-up question on this. What should be the significant moral lessons we're learning from this very book? I mean, looking at how in Africa here, most of our elections are characterized with the constitutional crisis, election violence, dispute and all that. Right. So what should be the mindset moving forward, after this book has been launched, and of course gearing towards a crucial election in Ghana?
Yeah, so like I said, it highlights the institutional transformation of ECOWAS into a promoter of a rule-based system anchored on democratic norms and then the rule of law. So this is very crucial at this moment. I want to get myself, grab myself a copy and, immerse myself in it. I couldn't. I'm supposed to pick one. I'm supposed to pick one from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. Don't worry, I'll get one, because we need one for research,
of course,
which would help us a lot when it comes to acquiring knowledge and speaking to the issues. This is very important. Without that, we may be lacking a whole lot of information and facts, and I'm excited about the launch of this book. I think all journalists, stakeholders, when it comes to democracy, peace and security, all officers, should have a copy of the book. And it should go beyond just putting information in the book to even holding lecture series at the professional level, and then even at the schools also, so we can have, we can be able to access information and apply in whatever we do at the end of the day. I love the idea of this book launch, which expatiates more on ECOWAS, its transition, where it started to where it is currently. And there are challenges when we talk about the Economic Community of West African States, which is ECOWAS. I don't think ECOWAS is a favorite of many many West Africans right now. But would you rather we did not have ECOWAS? You can imagine, where we will be headed. So it's just like the United Nations. So would you say that because
ECOWAS has come?
We've come very far.
Of course, and I've received a lot of backlash.
And it's good.
Exactly.
And it's good. And it's interesting to see even leaders from the ECOWAS, when they talk, when they engage the media. It's not like they sweep all the things, under the carpet. They talk about the challenges that they are faced with and some of the measures, and redoing things differently to ensure that they don't make some of the mistakes that have been made in the past. So as the world changes, or as the region changes, we ought to ensure that we have we are also changing the way things used to work when it comes to the regional pact at the end of the day. So I want to believe that this is also good for us as a country. It's good to look at yourself in the mirror and criticize yourself and say that I think I haven't done well here. Moving forward, how do I handle it? How do we move on? And how do we make things better? I want to believe the book captures all of that. The challenges, the success stories, and everything in between.
Right, thank you very much, Harriet. Of course, so you heard it for yourself. This is the book, a book newly and of course duly launched, that talks about the post-electoral disputes in the Gambia in 2016 December. Obviously talking about the constitutional crisis that led to the mayhem that we saw in Gambia, where ECOWAS had to bring in some military intervention to stall or to even end and conclude that very mayhem that occurred in Gambia. We'll move on to our next topic for conversation. Now we are looking at pupils and teachers receive cardio pulmonary resuscitation education. Now, if you permit me, I'll just read just a bit of what is captured here. It says pupils and teachers of the Ancilia Preparatory School in Hacho, Accra have been sensitized on how to perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which is the CPR, on people in the event of an emergency. So in an interview with the... Okay, so we'll quickly look at the bite that follows this very conversation.
I served as Ghana's ambassador to Japan, and I retired from the foreign service after that mission. Now, I noticed that in Japan, they don't take things for granted. They deliberately teach young people from basic schools to second cycle institutions and tertiary institutions very, very many things which are very important for survival in life. For example, right from primary school, they will teach children how to cross a road, a busy road, without help. They will teach them to get to the side of the road. They will raise their hands to attract the drivers. They would watch left, right, and left again. And then when they realize that the vehicles have come to a stop, they begin to cross the road. And when they cross the road to the other side, they turn and bow to the drivers as a mark of respect that they responded to the request for them to stop and for them to use the zebra crossing. And they will always cross at the zebra crossing, not somewhere else. They teach children how to keep cities neat. No child will throw any litter on the floor. They know where the dustbins are and they'll go there and throw it there. Another thing they teach them is CPR. This is cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, because you are dealing with two organs, the heart and the lungs, which must be resuscitated in time of collapse and so on. So they teach people these things. In addition to teaching them so that they can do this manually, they also provide mobile AEDs. This is automated external defibrillators. These are the machines, small mobile machines, which can be used to perform the same CPR which we are trying to do manually. But they make sure that these things are available in all places, schools, churches, shopping malls, stadia, workplaces, etc. Wherever people congregate in mass form, they make sure that these AEDs, mobile ones, are available. If resuscitation does not start within 4 minutes, the likelihood of survival is reduced considerably. And therefore, if we teach people these things and people can spring into action immediately and do it the right way, then we have chances of making more people survive after collapsing.
That CPR is cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and it is the care given to an individual when they are in a state of shock to help them, to revive them in a sense. I think it's beneficial for me because I can help those who are about to die, and for others, so it can save their lives.
I think it's very important because sometimes some people, their parents can collapse or have problems and don't know how to solve it, and their parents can die. But if they know how, they are educated about CPR, they can perform it, and their parents will live, and they will also be very happy.
I learned that before you perform CPR, you have to first check if the person is breathing, like the pulse of the person, and you also have to also check the surroundings of the person. And first, you have to also lift the head of the person, press the nose, but not too tight, and make sure that the mouth opens. And before you start to breathe into the person, in order to revive them.
CPR is very eminent to determining the survival rate of people who have collapsed in a state of shock or any situation, and that the ways at which you administer CPR will determine their survival rates. The knowledge of CPR is very, very important because if one doesn't know how to administer such basic treatment without any professional medical practitioner being around, there can be a lot of loss of lives, and teaching these type of things in schools really helps with the development of student knowledge and the survival of people. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the conversation there. CPR, an immediate aid or care given to an individual who happens to find him or herself in a state of shock. The immediate remedy given to an individual. And I think this is very progressive. That was the former Ghana ambassador to Japan, His Excellency Sylvester Pax Alote. Parker. I beg your pardon, Parker Alote, also telling us the need for this very sensitization. And I think I must give kudos to the Ancillary Preparatory School for initiating this very conversation. Harriet, very progressive, isn't it?
This is very progressive, but if I tell you how His Excellency Ambassador Parker Alote, who has served as Ghana's ambassador to, first of all, Deputy Head of Mission in Israel, and then Japan as the Chief of Mission or Head of Mission representing Ghana in Japan, now championing this cause. If I tell you what actually necessitated the move for him to take to embark on this journey, you would be very sad. You know, actually he lost his wife. Yes, there was an accident. The wife was not, yes, very sad story, and I'm not going to give everything away, but I'm just mentioning that I'm building my point to how this whole initiative started, right? And I'll tell you how I knew about this, you know, because he lost his wife. You know, the wife came out, there was an accident, I was told, and she came, saw the people, scattered all over from the car, like a car crash or something, and she was home when this happened. It wasn't like she was out or she was in a car headed anywhere. She was, in her house when she heard the noise and everything, came out of the house, I was told, and saw, the people with blood and everything, and she collapsed.
And that was it.
And that was it.
Wow.
And she died. So she could have been saved if we had any idea about CPR. The full meaning is what? Cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which is commonly referred to as CPR. So if we had any knowledge, or even at least somebody, in the crowd understood anything around this, I'm sure the wife, could have been saved. But unfortunately, may her soul rest in perfect peace. So this pushed him to begin to organize sensitization programs around this particular topic, which is ensuring that the Ghanaian community is very much known, is used to something like this, gets the education, is aware of some of these things that could curtail, any death or anything around. And it's not something that we are used to. We are at a place as a country where we have not so much paid attention to some of these things. And these things can go a long way to save lives. So it is important that we start the conversation around this subject. So he's taking it upon himself, and he's collaborating because of his, relationship with Japan. When he was serving as Ghana's ambassador to Japan, he had a very good relationship with the Japanese, and he built some very good relationships as well. So he is leveraging this relationship to also, introduce such good courses at the end of the day. So he's targeting the schools for now. I want to believe it's something that would move past schools to even the professional space. CPR, getting first-hand information on CPR should be, everybody needs it. It's basic understanding of what should be done should something happen to anybody before the ambulance arrives. Is very crucial that we are armed with information of this kind. And I'm happy that he's catching them young. He's catching them young, and he's, giving the needed education to the young ones. So we begin from the school children or pupils, and then we can come to the professional space and get other offices. Everyone must have an idea, even the market women, the woman selling tomatoes, onions. The market people should be able to be given such, knowledge, basic knowledge when it comes to saving lives. Otherwise, I don't think it is the best as a country. Then again, this is what diplomacy can do. This is what diplomacy, because it's not just technical assistance, exchanging of knowledge, information, where you can bring on board other partners to, show you how certain things are done, or partner with you and pursue a good cause for humanity. And this is one of such causes we are talking about. And I'm happy that even though he lost his wife, it gets me a bit emotional, and I see that you are getting a bit emotional as well. Emotional, I know, but
for me, the most important thing is how he's been able to channel that energy into doing something very impactful in the society. For me, that's it for me.
Right.
And I think that moving forward, other disciplines, initiatives, or institutions should also pick this campaign up.
It should be compulsory.
Exactly,
mandatory.
not just even the kids. Our market women, our fathers, cut across.
Everywhere.
Because it's a very important, topic.
It is, and it will save, so many lives, because we lose people in instances when we shouldn't actually lose anyone. But unfortunately, lack of knowledge, and we don't know, so sometimes we just lose people. They slip through our fingers like that, and it's very unfortunate. But it is also worth noting that Ambassador Sylvester Pakalote is also part of our distinguished panel. A distinguished panel for the selection committee for the projects we are embarking on, this adventure that we are embarking on, and I'm sure we'll talk extensively about this as well. We don't have much time, so
let's quickly jump on this story. Now, not too long ago, Ghana hosted the All-African Games, and of course, we saw the beauty and the flamboyancy in our inaugural ceremony, in our closing ceremony. I think Ghana is becoming the talk of town when it comes to football or, sports in general. But that's not a conversation. Our very own Asamoah Gyan has also launched the maiden edition of the All Regional Games. For me, this is very important, especially when it comes to unearthing, very young talents that we have here, and giving them that international recognition that they need to become the best version of themselves. Now, quickly help me, or let me read just a bit of what is being captured here. Now, it says that the aim is to unearth talent across the country for future competition. It involves regional trial competitions in June to identify their top sportsman and woman ahead of the maiden national games in November. So this is what we are talking about. But let's also take you to the grounds where this very conversation was birthed. Take a look at this.
Many years ago, it's something I've been thinking of. What can I do beyond football, or what can I do to improve sports? Because after school, we also everything in the past, talking about this intercolleges and everything going down, and nothing has been done. So it's something I've been planning for like a decade. But my problem was how to implement it. So it's something I've been contemplating throughout these years. And lo and behold, I said to myself, hey, whether hook or crook, I have to make this thing happen. And then coincidentally, I was contacted by All Regional Games. They also had the same plan, festival in November. Because we have a short time, we decided to do about 9 disciplines, tennis, and what have you.
Today we are here talking about the All Regional Games. That looks like starting from a very, very humble beginnings. But we are not looking at what is going to happen beyond the happenings of today. Athletes are being given the platform to show their talents, Ajman Bedus and the legendary Baby Jets one day.
So there you have it. That was the former, captain of the Black Stars, Asamoah Gyan, talking to us about what this initiative really is about. And of course, that was Kurt Okweku, who also happens to be the GFA boss, also adding on to how important this very initiative is. Harriet, let me come to you.
Asamoah Gyan is a legend in the sports industry or fraternity, and he's well known across the boundaries of Ghana and all over the world. So he is an international legend, and he's known for so many things as well. He's known for his love for music and his humanitarian work. So he gives back to society, I must say, and we must commend him for the little he's able to do by, endearing himself to the people of this country, and then at the global stage. Now, this is very exciting. Oftentimes, we see people who have been good at something, and when they retire, we don't even get to hear of them anymore. They die with their talents, they die with their knowledge, they die with a lot, that they could have shared for people to also use to better themselves. And speaking of legends, let's talk about those that are living and they continue to impact our communities. Sports diplomacy, right. That's where I'm coming to. Yeah. It's a very strong and very powerful tool. And I sat here last week and I mentioned the soft power approach to doing things, and I'm going to enumerate that as well, because it is what gets things done. These are people who can open very important doors, right. Doors that certain people that we feel are, bigger and cannot open. These are people that we think they are very regular and that's, but they get things done behind the scenes. For us to finish we just had the All Africans. There was
like I said earlier, yes, the All African Games.
All African Games, which Ghana hosted, and Ghana also made a mark. We didn't just host, but we hosted it and then we won. At the same time, so it's also highly commendable.
Right.
And for him to think of going to the roots to scout for talent, authentic. We have so many talented kids here, young folks who have so much talent to give, but do not even know where to go to, who to speak with, and how to, sell their craft, raw craft or talent for them to be polished up. And these are the things that I want to talk about when it comes to impact in our society. So this is good, not just for Asamoah Gyan.
Right.
We are talking about Ghana, putting Ghana on the map. Putting Ghana on the map doesn't mean that we are crossing the continent. We are talking about Ghana. For us, we are talking about West Africa. We are talking about Africa. Who knows who is watching, and they may want to emulate or replicate or even partner for us to do bigger things together, collaborate. And these are the things that we want to talk about all the time. So kudos to Asamoah Gyan. And he has plans of appearing on Diplomatic Affairs for us to explore further what this seeks to achieve at the end of the day. And we will be here to provide our platforms to him and his team and deliberate and even talk for people to understand exactly what he wants to achieve at the end of the day. He's come very far. His story, he's had his own moments, where he's been kind of like, totally run on, like crushed, and then moments where he's lifted the country as well. But he keeps pressing on, and he keeps giving back to community. And I want to talk about sports diplomacy, through which we can achieve so much as a country.
Right. Of course, yes. So very, very, very instructive there. So this is the same platform that Asamoah Gyan, he himself got an opportunity to, as it were, bring out what he has as far as talent is concerned. Persons like Suleiman Tari, even Kudus, who's putting Ghana on the map. So I believe that young people who want to explore further as far as sports is concerned, do take advantage of this, and who knows, you can be the next Asamoah Gyan. Now let's quickly cross over to the Diplomatic Honors events. Well, last week we spoke about this. Now, this week we're here to also talk about it, further and look at how even the launch spanned out and how, how the conversation is going really. And of course, we'll have a bite for you. Let's just look at this bite. Once we are back, Harriet will take us through and of course explore more options on this. Stay with us.
Lunch, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration Shirley Ayokoboche applauded the CEO of Diplomatic Communications Limited, Ms. Harriet Nate, for the good job her outfit has done. According to her, the Diplomatic Affairs show, which airs on Pan-African television, educates the Ghanaian public on the work of the diplomats, since a lot of people are not conversant with what they do.
Over the years, the kind of work that you have done. The first day I saw that you had this TV program where you educate Ghanaians on the work of our diplomats and Ghana's diplomacy generally. I thought that was a good idea, and I say that because people would usually associate the work that we do with having cocktails and drinking champagne and all of that, without them knowing that
this was the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Shirley Ayokoboche, talking about the essence and importance of this very initiative, and of course congratulating the organizing team for this very wonderful initiative. Harriet, take us through it. I hear for a fact that there's been some media conglomerate, knocking your doors and appreciating the importance of diplomacy and international relations, and they want to come on board. Tell us about this latest partnership that we're hearing.
Ivan, the fourth estate cannot be taken for granted.
Of course.
The media is very powerful. We play a very key role when it comes to democracy and all of that. And so we're excited to have these media conglomerates coming on board to support this agenda. This is not for Harriet Nate. This is not for you. This is not for Diplomatic Affairs. This is for Ghana. This is for Africa, and it is for the world. These are people who don't get to be celebrated as they should because they do things on a quiet. There's something called quiet diplomacy. So they do things without having to share details or making so much noise about it, yet they get the job done. And you and I are seated here having this conversation because there is peace. Peace prevails and there is security. Without it, imagine what can go wrong or what would have happened at the end of the day. So for us to introduce the first ever diplomatic honors, this is an awards platform that seeks to celebrate foreign service officers, diplomats, Ghana's development partners, stakeholders who have contributed through diplomacy and international relations, impacted our communities, our society, and then the world at large. Look at what is happening now between Iran and even Israel and Iran right now, Israel and Palestine or Hamas. We see what is happening between Russia and Ukraine, Syria. There are so many things happening. Sudan is here, right here. There's so much happening around us. And diplomats continue to work, or foreign service officers, experts continue to work and see how best they can bring peace to these environments. At the end of the day, these are people we don't get to even get to know, learn about. We just talked about Ambassador Sylvester Parker Alute, and look at what he's doing through diplomacy. This is something that he can easily speak with a country that he had served, in representing Ghana's interests. At the end of the day, bringing back the relationship and pushing for this agenda. These are the stories, again, I want to tell the world and the impacts that it is making, in all of that. So the Diplomatic Affairs, the Maiden Diplomatic Honors is on. It is scheduled to take place this year. We have the support of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, the Economic Community of West African States, the African Continental Free Trade Area, the Ministry of Trade and Industrialization. We have tourism, Office of the President, SDGs, Office of the President, Diaspora. We have everybody coming on board to support this initiative. It is quite a lot of work. It is very challenging. It's already giving me sleepless nights, and you as well, all the entire team. But this is what we signed up up for. And it's for God and country. Someone has to do it. So we are not doing it to celebrate us, but we're doing it to celebrate the people who truly deserve that moment of gratitude. So that's what we are about.
Thank you very much, Harriet Nartey. And of course, Pan African Television will continue to support conversations that span up from the diplomatic space and, of course, international relations. We are number one supporter of diplomacy. And, of course, the diplomatic honors event as well. Right. We are not moving an inch from this initiative. We are supporting you thick and thin to ensure that this project comes to life.
Thank you.
And, of course, this is where we draw curtains on today's edition of Diplomatic Affairs TV show. My name is Harriet Ivan. Did I just say Harriet? Did I just say Harriet? Oh my goodness! No, I think for a second it's because of the seat that I find myself in. Well, this is your seat. Anyways, of course, my name is Ivan Bans Aban, and I've been doing this with Harriet Nartey, who is the CEO and founder of the Diplomatic Honors Initiative, and of course the executive producer and the host of Diplomatic Affairs TV show. We'll come your way same time next week. Do stay with us and enjoy the rest of our programs.